When was the last time that you were vulnerable? Not just with other people, but with yourself. When was the last time that you allowed yourself to express what you're truly feeling and what's brewing up deep inside of you? Because so often what we do in our lives is that we repress all these emotions, all these feelings that are affecting us, and it translates into our relationships, it translates into our business, the entirety of our lives. It affects everything. And I've recently come to understand that I myself haven't been able to fully express vulnerably with all of you. I haven't been able to express that with myself even. And even though at times I feel like I am, there's blocks that are beneath the surface that are keeping me from seeing what I truly need to see and feel in order to allow those to come to the surface. So I invite you to think about this. When was the last time that you were truly vulnerable? And consider what that really means. So for a long time, I've been working towards this dream of having food forest, of having my own land, of having a thriving business, of being able to give back and help people to awaken dormant parts of themselves. And through that process, I've realized that I have been wearing a mask, and I didn't even realize it. I've talked about the not the shadow archetypes, but the archetypes, the four major archetypes that Carl Jung refers to. There's the persona, the self, the shadow, and the anima and animus. And this has created a persona which has masked how I am showing up in the world, which has masked how I am being in the moment. And it's kept me from truly activating and awakening that part of myself. Because what we have to do first is to show up for ourselves first, is to embody that within us. And then through that journey, through that process, it allows us to open the door for other people to step through. It's like a light shining in the darkness that reveals the way back to ourselves. And when we see other people do this, it gives us permission to step into that in our own lives. And a key thing that I talk about on this channel is stepping into that divine masculine energy through activating your fire. The fire comes through there's many different things that help to activate that fire. And when we have blocks, we have things preventing us from awakening these dormant parts of ourselves. It keeps us stuck in a cycle, a repetitive cycle that we just keep spinning our wheels and we don't actually get anywhere. And as of late, I've felt myself slipping into such a cycle. Like there's something blocking me. There's something keeping me from stepping out of where I'm currently at and into who I want to be. And there are many things that has come to the surface. And I've realized that, especially as a man in this society, it's difficult for us to express ourselves genuinely and authentically in a way that we actually open up our hearts. And David Data talks about this a lot, is to live with an open heart even if it hurts. And I've really been working towards doing that, and especially with my partner, she's helped me to see so many aspects of myself that I've hidden. And it comes through obviously in the relationship, but it comes through in doing these videos. It comes through in doing the lives that I do every week in my group. It comes through in every area of my life, and I've found myself being blocked. And it's like, I'm sure that you have encountered this. Whenever you experience a block, it's very uncomfortable, and it's also very frustrating because you don't usually know what to do. You don't usually know what path to take. You don't know where to go. it's like there's just so many things coming up all at once, and you just feel so overwhelmed that we tend to shut down. We tend to just withdraw ourselves from the world and from ourselves and from those that we love. So it keeps us in this cycle, and we don't even know why. We don't know how to get out of it. And I've realized that there are many blocks that I've experienced throughout my life. And, like with my partner, for instance, we've been on and off for 3 years. And through that process, I've learned aspects of my shadow that were hiding deep beneath the surface. And in my group, especially, I've been talking about these shadow archetypes. And there's various shadow archetypes. So what it focuses, the king, warrior, magician, and lover, rediscovering or reawakening the aspects of the mature masculine, something along those lines. So I have focused on activating these parts of myself, and through reading this book, I've been able to realize the different shadow elements that have come up within me. And even in especially in our relationship is where it's really been prominent, because these are the parts that I've hidden from myself for so long. One of the aspects is through is the innocent one. It's a shadow archetype of the magician archetype. So it's a shadow aspect of the magician archetype. So basically, we convince ourselves and other people that we are innocent, that we don't know what's going on. And throughout a lot of my life, I was doing this. Like when I was in school, I would act like I was dumb because it was funny, and also it would help to stall the lesson. It would help to make it go longer in hopes that we wouldn't get as much homework. So for me, it was like I was embodying this trickster type of energy, but it wasn't malicious, but it was not authentic. And then I would have moments where I would genuinely be confused, but because I had done that so much, it's like it would be frustrating for probably my peers and for the teacher as well. And through my relationship, one of the things that I did was, when we first started talking, 3 years ago, there was somebody that reached out to me that I had sexual relations with in the past. And because I had embodied so much of this archetype, I genuinely at times will be naive to the situation. I would be naive to what is happening even in my own life, in my own brain. And so what it does is it blocks parts of us from seeing other parts. We become fixated on these external elements that we want to focus on, and then we push down the aspects that we don't want to see. And so somebody reached out to me while we were out of town at it was like a masculine embodiment pickup type of seminar. And while we were out of town, ironically, while I was at the seminar, she reached out to me, this other woman. And because I had this innocence perspective, this innocent archetype, to me, I felt like, because she wanted to invite me over to have dinner. And instead of telling my partner, I thought it would be best if I just stopped talking to this girl and I just forgot about it. But when I spoke to her, I was like, yeah, maybe when we get back from town, we can meet up. Of course, in my mind, I was going to tell my partner. I definitely was. However, I also knew that I likely wouldn't be furthering this connection, this engagement with this other woman. But it was in my mind, while I was talking to her, I genuinely felt like she was wanting to say thank you. Like she was wanting to thank me because I had let her stay for like a week. She didn't have anywhere to go, and I let her stay for a week. And some things happened. This was before I met my partner, and then after I met her and we were together, then this third party woman reached out, and that's when everything just like went downhill. And so through that, I realized the shadow aspect of my own archetypes coming to the surface. I didn't realize it at the time of what that was. It wasn't until recently that I've learned what these various archetypes are and how they've affected me in my own life, that I was able to truly step into that. And as men, I feel like in our society, we perpetuate this notion that it's, if we can just get all the girls that we want and get all the, do all the things, especially sexually, like it's like, great job, bro, you got with all these women, and it's like this shadow masculine is coming to the surface through that, because we have a sense of accomplishment, achievement. But what is happening in reality is that this is a trauma response on a deeper level, because we aren't meant to do this. We aren't meant to have these types of relations with a bunch of random people, because it creates cords, it creates energetic connections that bind you literally to this other person. When you're bound to these other people, it affects you in ways that you aren't even aware of. It affects not just you, but the relationship with people in your life. It affects the way that you show up in the world. And through this process, I realized that I was not being truly authentic. I wasn't showing up the way that I needed to. And she brought this to my attention, and it was really painful for me to see these aspects of myself. And then for me, it was like a ripple effect that I continued to spiral downwards into this archetype, to the point where I was literally becoming detached from my own self. It was like this shadow aspect was taking over me. It was like taking over the entirety of my being, and I started to like just disassociate in ways like I wouldn't even like. I got to a point where I was like, another woman reached out to me a couple months later, and it was over something like, it wasn't even anything sexually related. It was like she was asking for like support because she needed to borrow money or something like that. And then I went on to instead of saying that I'm living with my partner, I said I was living with like a roommate or something. So it was like I wasn't even claiming her, and I was trying to hide these aspects of her, but I was really hiding aspects of myself. And it really affected me. So it really affected how I saw myself and how I was showing up in the world. I began to really spiral down from that point, and that's when I went through a dark night of the soul, because it was like, even the things that I was doing didn't make sense to me. I was like, why am I saying these things? Why am I doing these things? But I didn't realize that at the time it was these shadow elements of myself that I'd repressed coming up to the surface. And it was aspects of the lover energy coming up, but also the magician, because I'll go into that later on in further videos, but the magician archetype is really about that I was embodying, rather, was the shadow magician archetype was like playing. I wasn't even playing dumb, but it was like I was literally blocked from seeing aspects of myself. Like it was a response coming deep within me, but I wasn't even aware consciously of really what I was saying. I was so disassociated from what was happening on the surface, from what was coming out of my mouth, from what I was truly expressing, that it wasn't me. It wasn't coming from the core of myself, of my being. And after we had parted ways temporarily, I went through, like I said, a dark night of the soul, to where like everything fell away, and I ended up going to jail. ended up losing my license. Before that, I'd lost my apartment. I lost, I felt like I was losing connection to friends and family. It was just like everything was just trickling and spiraling down for me. I ended up actually meeting someone that I would consider like the magician archetype, who looked to me like what I envisioned a druid looking like. And he revealed to me a book, The 21 Lessons of Merlin, that really was a game changer for me. That really helped me to, because I ended up moving back in with my dad. And through that process, I was able to incorporate and to reflect back. I was doing a lot of journaling. I was doing a lot of self-reflection. I was just returning back to my childhood energy. And for me, a lot of inner child healing was playing video games, because that's what I did as a child. So that's what kind of brought me that sense of comfort. So I was able to take the space to do that, and it got to a point where after a few months of doing this, I knew that I had to step out and do something more. I had to actually apply myself, and I had to push myself. I had to get out of that comfort zone. But through that process, I was able to understand so much more of why I did what I did. Because like I said, even while it was happening, I wasn't even aware of why it was happening, because it wasn't conscious. It was coming deep within my shadow. And that's what I talk about. These shadow elements of us come up in situations, especially in romantic relationships, or really any relationship. That's what it does. And if we aren't expressing the true nature of ourselves, if we aren't being real with ourselves and being real with those in our lives, then we aren't going to be able to express that, and it's going to come through one way or another. And there's an exercise that I recently learned where this guy, actually I haven't gotten to the part yet, but the part that I was reading was he was having a conversation basically with his shadow archetype that was coming through at work. He would say spiteful remarks. He wouldn't be able to contain himself when in meetings and things would come up, and he would say things that would be disrespectful, but they would be what he's truly feeling. He was having a conversation with the shadow aspect of himself, and it was literally like a back and forth conversation, and he was asking this part of himself why it was showing up, why it was trying to sabotage everything. And what it basically said was that it was miserable because he had not been real with himself and other people. He stopped expressing his true feelings in situations, and he was allowing other people to walk all over him, and he was being weak, and he wasn't showing up for the shadow aspect that was trying to just express what he was truly feeling. However, because the shadow part of him felt so unheard and unfelt and unseen, it started to show up in his life, whether he wanted it to or not. And while he's having this conversation, he was able to come to an agreement that he would start to express himself more, and he would also allow them to take a break, to take some space, to go on vacation, because this part of him was pushing him to have a break one way or another, and it was trying to get him fired because it wanted that space to reflect. It wanted that space to just be at ease and at peace. And so it's vitally important for us to realize and to connect with these parts of ourselves so that we can truly and fully integrate, or else it's going to continue to show up and continue to sabotage us in our relationships. So for me, I had to get real with myself. I had to fully lock in and dive into why this was coming up. And it's still a progressive journey. I'm still learning about why and aspects of these things that I've done so that I can heal it and help other people, other men, to show up fully for themselves, for their partners, for their family. And in our society especially, men are taught to not feel, to suppress these parts of themselves because it's considered weak. It's considered just not strong, if you're not, like, you need to not reveal these emotions, to not show the world what you're truly feeling. And while it's important to be it's important for us to be real with ourselves, to be real with other people. Now, there's a way that we can do that that's more precise, that's not going to affect us in a way that's going to allow us to connect with other people. So we don't have to just dump it all out on the table. Well, what we do need to do is to be honest with ourselves, to be honest with other people. And by having these conversations, it opens the door to new possibilities. It opens the door for us to heal that part of ourselves, to connect back these fragmented aspects of ourselves, so that we can get to the core of our true self, and to strip away the masks of persona, to break through the realms of our shadow, and to free ourselves from the chains that has bound us for so long. And I help people to break out of that. I have many different techniques that I've used. One of the techniques is the emotion code. That's been huge for me at times, because it's helped me to not only pinpoint where and when these traumas happen for me, but also to work back through these so that I can begin to have these conversations with myself. And I've helped my clients as well to do this. It's really key for us to be honest and real with ourselves. And finding a way to do that is really important, to take that time and space to reflect back. Journaling has been another huge element and aspect for me. It's helped me to just get it all out of my head, to just write it on paper, get it all out of my head, and it frees up so much space, so much mental energy that we use trying to suppress it. So if that's something that you would be interested in, if you're having trouble breaking through these blocks, being truly authentic, expressing yourself in the way that you want to, then I encourage you to book a call. I would love to have a discovery call with you to help you to get back on track, to help you to realign yourself in the way that calls to your highest purpose and passions. It's vitally important for us to have these conversations. I'm not saying with me, but with somebody, or even just with yourself. If you can have these conversations with yourself, it's going to be crucial if you wish to evolve and to level up, to step into the next level of yourself, to evolve, and to live your highest purpose. So just continue to break out of your comfort zone, to step into that fire of transformation by forging yourself through these challenges, through these obstacles, by just going through it instead of trying to go around it or hide behind other parts of ourselves. It's important that we step into that, to feel it at its core, so that we can heal it and let it go. It's been a pleasure being on this journey with you, my friend. This pilgrimage back to our core selves. We're all helping each other. We're all walking each other home at the end of the day. So I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, week, month. I hope to see you next time. Peace, love.